Imagine it is the year 1397. You are standing on the banks of the Arno River in Florence. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke, raw wool, and the sweat of a city in the middle of a feverish transformation. To your left, the great Duomo is rising like a stone mountain, a skeleton of marble and ambition. But beneath this beauty lies a brutal reality for anyone doing business. In this era, wealth is a physical burden. If you are a merchant who has sold fine Florentine silk to a buyer in London, your payment is a mountain of gold florins. But that gold is 1,000 miles away. To get it, you must hire a private army. You must pray that your carriage doesn't sink into the winter mud of the Alps. And you must hope your guards don't slit your throat in your sleep for a taste of that fortune. In the 14th century, the speed of money was the speed of a tired horse, and the security of money was the sharpness of your sword. Enter Giovanni di Bicci de' Medici. While other men were sharpening blades, Giovanni was sharpening a quill. He understood a secret that would change the course of human history. Money is not the gold itself. Money is the trust that the gold exists somewhere else. From a quiet candle-lit study, the Medici perfected the bill of exchange. It was a simple, elegant piece of parchment that acted as a portal through time and space. You would hand your gold to a Medici clerk in Florence. In return, you received a slip of paper of promise. When you reached London, months later, you walked into a Medici branch, showed your paper, and walked out with English silver. This didn't just make travel safer. It made it invisible. By creating a network of trusted branches across the nodes of Europe, from the foggy docks of Bruges to the bustling markets of Geneva, the Medici built the Medicus, world's first information grid. They decoupled value from its physical weight. They were no longer just merchants. They were the invisible layer of reality between every king, every soldier, and every trader in the Western world. They created the first global financial architecture, a hidden system of ledgers that would eventually evolve into the digital pulses of our modern banks. Before there was an internet of data, the Medici created an internet of trust. This was the birth of the godfathers of finance. The Medici had conquered the problem of distance, but they now faced a far more terrifying obstacle: the wrath of God. In the 15th century, the Catholic Church held absolute power over the soul, and its laws were clear. Charging interest on a loan known as usury was a mortal sin. To the medieval mind, a banker was a thief of time, someone who made a profit while doing no physical labor. In the eyes of the Church, Giovanni de' Medici wasn't just a businessman. He was a candidate for the lowest circles of hell. This wasn't just a religious threat. It was an existential one. If the Church turned against you, your assets could be seized, your contracts voided, and your soul excommunicated. But the Medici were masters of the hidden grid, and they knew that every law has a shadow. They realized that while the Church hated interest, it was obsessed with currency exchange. They began to hide their profit in the fluctuating values of Europe's different coins. By lending in Florentine florins and demanding repayment in London pounds or Venetian ducats, they could bake a 10 or 20% profit into the exchange fee. On paper, no interest was ever charged. To the priests, it looked like a simple service. To the Medici, it was the loophole that allowed the first global financial engine to roar to life. This clever sleight of hand didn't just protect them. It eventually won them the ultimate client. In 1410, a man named Baldassare Cosa, a former pirate turned cardinal, needed a fortune to fund his campaign for the papacy. The Medici took the gamble. They funded his rise, and when he was elected as Pope John the 23rd, he didn't forget his friends. Suddenly, the Medici weren't just merchants. They became God's bankers. They were granted the exclusive right to manage the vast, sprawling wealth of the Vatican. Every tithe, every indulgence, and every tax collected from the corners of Christendom flowed through Medici ledgers. This alliance gave them something more valuable than gold: immunity. While other banks were crushed by kings or dismantled by the Inquisition, the Medici sat at the right hand of the Pope. They had turned a mortal sin into a divine mandate, and in doing so, they gained access to the world's most powerful database of secrets, debts, and sins. The hidden grid was no longer just about trade, it was about total control. With the Pope in their pocket and the usury loophole mastered, the Medici had built a financial empire. But their true genius lay not just in making money, but in weaponizing it for political power. They weren't just bankers. They were the puppet masters of Florence, and eventually, the power behind the thrones of Europe. The family had a simple rule: spend money to make money, and spend money to make power. Cosimo de' Medici, Giovanni's son, understood this better than anyone. He poured vast fortunes into public works, building churches, libraries, and hospitals. He sponsored artists like Donatello and Brunelleschi, whose masterpieces transformed Florence into the jewel of the Renaissance. This wasn't mere philanthropy. It was virtue signaling on an epic scale. By making Florence prosperous and beautiful, the Medici earned the love and loyalty of its citizens, ensuring their elections were always in their favor. But Cosimo's power ran deeper than public opinion. He controlled the appointments to every key government position in Florence. No major decision was made without his approval. He lent money to rivals, then called in those debts at politically opportune moments, forcing their compliance or ruin. Florence was a republic in name, but in reality, it was a Medici family business. This mastery of soft power earned Cosimo a new title: Pater Patriae, Father of the Fatherland. He ruled without ever holding an official position, a true godfather figure centuries before the term existed. He perfected the art of invisible governance, a system where the illusion of choice masked absolute control. His legacy was the ultimate fusion of wealth, culture, and power. The Medici transformed a city, shaped an era, and fundamentally changed how power was exercised. They laid the blueprint for every powerful banking family and political dynasty that followed, proving that the true currency of control wasn't just gold, but the subtle, relentless manipulation of information and influence. The Medici Bank eventually collapsed, but the grid they created never truly died. It simply evolved, shedding its skin of parchment and wax for fiber optics and silicon. Today, we live in the world the Medici imagined, a world where wealth is invisible, and power is a matter of who owns the most efficient database. The speed of money is no longer the speed of a tired horse. It is the speed of light. Trillions of dollars move across the globe in milliseconds, guided by algorithms that act as the modern-day clerks of the Medici. We have perfected the art of the loophole on a planetary scale. From offshore tax havens to complex derivatives, the currency exchange trick has become the foundation of our global economy. But the most profound legacy isn't the money, it's the control. Just as Cosimo used philanthropy to mask his power, modern institutions use the user agreement and the digital footprint. We are all nodes in a new kind of ledger. Every click, every purchase, and every search is a data point in a global database that predicts our desires and manages our choices. The Pater Patriae of today isn't a single man, but a network of servers and surveillance. We look back at the 15th century and see a feverish transformation, but we are in the middle of one far more radical. We have decoupled value from reality entirely. Gold has been replaced by bits, and trust has been replaced by code. Yet the fundamental rule remains: information is the only gold. The Medici taught us that the one who controls the flow of information controls the world. As we move into an era of artificial intelligence and decentralized finance, the question isn't whether the grid exists, but who holds the keys to the master ledger. The godfathers of finance are gone, but their ghost is in the machine, reminding us that in the game of power, the most dangerous weapon is the one you cannot see.